Should be good to go.
Looks good stuff. All right, we are live. Hopefully, there's some people that are joining us, but I'll crack on with introducing what we're doing. So, hello, welcome to Sin City's week of webinars. It's a whole thing that we're doing this week to celebrate Independent Venue Week. So we've had already a couple of webinars already this week, which you can go and watch back via our Facebook or the YouTube page. And today we're hosting a live chat. So if you do want to join in the conversation, ask any questions, please do. This one's called More Bass in the Monitors, and we've got a whole host of amazing guys that are doing really great stuff around the UK, I think, which is really amazing. My name's Simon Parton. I'm part of the Swansea Music Hub, so I'm very much involved in live music in Swansea, and I also do a few other projects around Wales, around music. And Gary's asked me to host some chats this week. But yeah, I wanted to start with just bringing Gary in, who some of you tuning in may know, just to kind of give a little background as to why we've done this today. So over to you, Gary.
Okay, hello. Yeah, wonderful to see you all. Nice to be back in a room with all of you again. So this week is Independent Venue Week, and a lot of people think that when they think of Independent Venue Week and when they think of venues like ours, like Sin City, and like those that kind of across South Wales, they automatically go to bands and rock bands and artists and stuff like that. But actually, an awful lot of what we do and an awful lot of the reason why the venue exists is because of the kind of DJ culture and the dance nights that we put on. So much of the revenue comes from those sessions and from those events, and so much of the audience, especially now in the last few years, definitely. And I'm sure the guys will talk about, especially like Dave and James and stuff. Donkeys years ago, like the audience, the craving for kind of dance music and the culture for it has always been there and has always been huge across South Wales. I personally, and the guys on the screen will attest. My knowledge of drum and bass and of house and of all things kind of DJ culture related is absolutely minimal. I am not the guy to speak to about it. I love it, and I enjoy every single event. But my background is not in that, and I know absolutely bugger all about it. So the great thing is that I can go to the guys that are here, and I can work with them to put on these amazing events. Because one thing that I've learned is that you can't just wing this stuff. You have to have like that passion for it. You have to have that knowledge and that interest in it. And the people that come to your events have to have the kind of faith in you as well. And that's what every single one of these guys has. And that's and it's going to be really interesting to hear how they kind of built it up. So yeah, the main reason for doing this and for kind of including this in the Independent Independent Venue Week kind of webinars is because of how important those sessions are to those sort of venues that exist in that realm.
Amazing, yeah, and likewise, it's something that I very much enjoy, and I've probably been to a number of your nights, guys, and had some fantastic times, but genuinely have no idea on the inner workings and how it all happens. So I'm really excited for this one as well. So yeah, just to say again, people that have joined us, if you do want to get involved in the conversation and ask questions, please do on the Facebook and YouTube. I think me and Gary will do our best to field as many of them as possible. But yeah, we'll jump straight in. So I'm going to go around and get you guys to introduce yourself. So James Hamilton, you just waved, so we'll go straight to you. Do you want to just say who you are, what you do?
Yeah, so I run a bunch of different events, everything from like house, D&B, done grime, hip hop. Worked within events and promoted for 12 plus years, something like that. Kind of got into it by accident, but yeah, done quite a few shows in my time now.
Amazing, good stuff. We'll jump to Rhodri Lewis.
Yeah, so I used to be a promoter in Swansea for about 10, 11 years, mostly with Gary in Sin City. Started off working on a night called CYNT, and I think it was 2009, 10, and then started up Sync Swansea with a number of others who are probably abusing us on the chat at the moment. And then sort of DJ'd in Swansea for sort of 10, 12 years, really. I do something a bit different now, but any opportunity Gary says there's a set available, I'm always happy to shoot back down the M4 and hit Swansea again.
Amazing, good stuff. Let's go to Dave, Concrete Junglists.
I'm David. I used to run a drum and bass night called Aperture, and now run a streetwear brand called Concrete Junglists. But moving into events, we've done events as well under the Concrete Junglist banner. But looking forward to what's going to happen next.
Amazing, good stuff. And we'll go to Tom Flew next.
Great. So I'm Tom. I run Hef. We've been doing our thing for the last 3 years or so. We really kind of put a focus on the kind of more local kind of side of the scene, trying to get local people involved and just trying to build up that local interest. I've been DJing for about 5 years around Swansea with various nights, and I love it.
Amazing, good stuff. We'll jump down to Nick Rich T.
Yes. Yeah, I've been DJing and promoting pretty much with James for like the last 10 or something years. How old am I? Yeah, I'm nearly 30, so I've worked 10 years. So yeah, just predominantly DJing and promoting so many different types of events with James, and yeah, just been doing that.
Amazing, good stuff. And then finally, James Inwards.
Yes, I'm James. I run Dazed. Kind of fell into promoting through DJing back when I was a fresher. And it's, somehow ended up putting on small nights in Bath, and then that kind of progressed into running Dazed in Bristol, and now we do kind of Dazed across the country and now in Europe as well. And we also run kind of on the other side of things, Disco Wonderland, which is an ABBA tribute night. So two complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Amazing, that sounds wicked. Good stuff. So yeah, good to meet you all. So I kind of wanted to start by asking each of you individually how on earth you ended up doing what you're doing, and whether that was your plan from the off, whether you're living the dream or whether it's morphed into something. I'm going to change up the order, so I'm going to start with Nick. Nick, was this your plan to be doing what you're doing?
I don't know, kind of not really. Initially, I just really wanted to DJ like Monkey and Sigma and those bars, and then I started Finalists in the record store. They're just like premises, like be a punter, get a gig. So if you wanted to play at Monkey Bar, you had to like buy records in the store. I started buying records, and then that like more than everybody else. They're all just buying like silly liquid, and pretty much just left education and haven't turned back really.
Lots of fun nights in Monkey back in the day as well. Let's jump to Rodri Lewis. How did you end up doing what you're doing?
So I do something a bit different now, but I mean, when I started sort of DJing, I came to Swansea and I played like local nightclubs in like West Wales. I mean, there's a club called Sands, which is it's a special place in Saundersfoot where I live, and and then a mate of mine put on a gig in Tenby, and you booked Rusko to get him down, and I hit dubstep, and then for me, I sort of could never let go of it. My mates still take the piss out of me because I still play a 2009 dubstep set about 3 years ago, and I just can't let go of it. But it's, I found that I just love the sort of the industry as a whole, and music in general. I've always been a huge fan, so it's kind of like for me, it was a great way to go out, meet people. I've got a group of mates from when we all ran Sync, and we're still really good mates now. And it's that we started it 6-7 years ago now, I think it is. So the whole thing for me was just it was something great to do while I was in uni, and then sort of followed it through. And then even when I changed jobs out, I do want to switch to project management, I could still go back and DJ, and I could sort of still keep a bit of that. And I just love the whole culture and scene, and it's been really good for me.
Amazing, good stuff. Let's jump to James Inward.
So I guess as I said, I kind of fell into promoting. I think when I was a fresher, I was just having I just started DJing when I was maybe like 16, and then when I went to uni, I was just having a little mix in my kitchen, and these guys came around trying to get me to promote their night. And I was like, I don't really fancy promoting, but you need a DJ. And they were like, actually, yeah, we do. So I started DJing with them. And then the guys that ran that were running a festival called Barfest. This was years ago now. And through them, I started running a rep team for them. And then someone, like another promoter from Bristol, noticed I was running a rep team and asked me to get involved with their night, which is called Baseline Cartel, which is their brand now. But it was that was kind of our jumping off point. We started a little brand. Made a lot of mistakes, spent way too much money on massive lineups that didn't sell. And then, from there, we learned from our mistakes. And then we started Days in Bristol maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, it's just kind of grown into, we started in Bristol, it's gone into Swansea, Cardiff, Leeds, Birmingham, Bournemouth. And now, more recently, we've just kind of branched out into Europe and got events in Prague and Budapest at the moment. So it's been a bit of a journey.
Amazing. Sounds great. Let's go to Tom Clue.
I first started just going out to nights maybe when I was a little younger than I should have, when I was like 16, 17, going to like Lemon Factory and Monkey. And I started getting involved with Function Tech. So I was going to their nights quite often. And I befriended a few of the guys who ran that. I picked up my own set of decks and they started giving me sets, which was great. And then I got involved with like the promotional and organizational side and kind of doing artwork and things like that for them. And then, I started my own brand Heft then, which was initially just meant to be in our kind of hometown, Gassinan, which kind of like out in the suburbs. But things quickly kicked off and we ended up coming to Swansea. And we've managed to sell out near enough every venue now in the city that takes drum and bass, which is really exciting. And then now, obviously, that's ended up with more opportunities where managed to play elsewhere. Obviously, what Days they're doing now abroad, we're involved with that as well, which is all really, really exciting. So it's just really kind of developed into the dream.
Amazing. Great. Let's jump to David.
My friend Lincoln, who's hot contrast, picked out of Metros about 2000, and the bouncer told us we had like a 3-month plan. So I told him, it's cool, we'll make our own club. So he gave us a 6-month plan. And we just had to make our own club. We had to beg and borrow decks and speakers and go to a pub in Cardiff in their basement and start a night. And that's where the contrast was born and the junglist
Sorry, guys, we're getting quite a lot of tech issues, a sound issue. If you're not wearing headphones, can you see if you grab a pair? And if you're not speaking, also mute. There's something chiming out.
Sounds like a computer fan.
That could be my ancient laptop. I'll mute myself.
That was it.
It's amazing. All right, let's go to James Hamilton while we've got some quiet.
So I kind of just fell into it really. My mate Reese had a date that needed filling in a club and didn't really know what I was doing, and managed to sell out a small 300 cap club. And it was pretty good. And I thought, this seems like a laugh. And just carried on from there, really. And then I ended up being offered a job running all the events and bookings for Monkey Bar. And then dropped out of uni because I was like, well, this seems great. And then I got offered a job in Cardiff looking after Buffalo, 10 Feet Tall, what used to be Fire Island, which is Tiny Rebel now. And then moved to Buffalo and done all the bookings there for a good probably 7 years or something like that, maybe. And then I've always kind of done stuff myself as well. And then working with a couple of other bigger promoters and things like that. And then fell into my job in social media advertising now, and working with like Live Nation and all the big guys now doing their ads and stuff, which is good. But yeah, complete accident really.
Amazing. There seems to be common trends with all the chats that we're doing this week, that it's accidents and just doing what you love and getting somewhere with it. So I imagine that when you first started out, like your first ever event that you guys either did or ran was very different to maybe your more recent events. So I kind of want to touch upon maybe like some tips for anybody who might be starting out in promoting or DJing or, you know, running their own nights, and maybe like your top tips and your top do and your top don't for running a night. Let's start with you, David.
I would say community is probably the biggest thing to build. Whether you're a DJ, if you want to DJ, get into the community, maybe start your community. As a promoter, it's your job to build the community, and you have to build it from the ground up. Like when I was running Aperture, the highlights of running Aperture was when my local DJs would smash the headliners off the stage. You know, like you bookend your locals with the headliner, and they would just kill it. They would just wipe the floor with the guy you just spent $1,000 on, and it's all about community building and having like a little bit of a competitive nature within the DJing. You know, I know it's you're all friends, but you kind of sharpen each other at the same time if you build the right type of community. You can get nasty if you build the wrong type of community, but the right type of community, you can stand on each other's shoulders, you know, help each other with not just DJing but producing, and that way then you build like a family. Like all my friends now, really a lot, well, not all of them, but most of my friends now are from the community I built with Aperture back in 2005.
That's amazing. That's good to know as well. Any don'ts?
No, I think you don't. You know, you have to make mistakes. You know, I think James Inwood picked up on it then, that you make mistakes going forward, and if you listen to the don'ts and you don't actually, you know, fall down a few holes while you're doing it, it can be a bit of a problem. You know, I think you should try everything. I don't know all the answers. I made mistakes, and some of the mistakes I made could be right for another promoter. Don't listen to any don'ts.
Love that. Good stuff. Right, let's go to Rodri. We have lost Nick. Hopefully he will join us back again.
Yeah, I think like the key thing for us, like when we started, I mean, CYNT, when I started working with that, is already an established brand in Cardiff that they tried to, you know, that we moved into Swansea and it worked. But I think for us, I think Sync worked because we created like an identity. We created something about it. And what we tried to do was, I mean, we all sat in Sim for I don't know how many hours in the lead up to starting Sync. There was about 10 of us for about 4 months just chatting shit with Gary just to try and find something that worked. But we tried to create an identity and something that was a bit different, because otherwise what you don't want to do is have, you know, you can have lots of the same. There could be loads of drum and bass nights, there could be loads of house nights, or it could be whatever. But we just sort of didn't want to put ourselves in the box. We thought we'd try and do something, you know, we'd play a bit of UK hip hop one week, we'd have beatboxers another week, we'd have a D&B act the week after, then we'd do and a grime. We tried to like switch it up, and then we tried to incorporate something that wasn't in a lot of nights in Swansea at the time. So we linked in with the guys at the Met, and we brought in artists to do live art while people were DJing to try and give it more of an experience, because it was more than just the music. Then we had other sort of arts and forms of art around it, and that's, I think that's what worked for us, and exactly what Dave said. You know, you build that community. We had then a group of regulars who would come, whether we booked, you know, a big headline act or whether you booked someone local who they hadn't heard before, and we wanted to use it as a platform to try and bring people to Swansea that not necessarily other people were booking, you know, that obscure hip hop act, or, you know, that brass band, Lazy Habits, that was a bit of a hip hop mix. And it's just stuff like that. It was things that we tried to do that sort of set ourselves apart from everyone else. And one thing I'd say is don't get het up on what everyone else is doing. Just because someone else is doing it, it doesn't mean it's going to be right for what you guys are doing. It's pretty much what Dave is as well. You know, essentially, it's that you need to try and find your own way through it. And like you say, you'll make mistakes and you'll book people and you'll spend shed loads of money on a headline act, but it might flop. And, you know, you just think just because you're spending shed loads of money doesn't mean it's going to be a better night. You could book, like when we had some beatboxers, they weren't the most expensive acts, but they were the nights that went off. Or, when you had a night, it's something completely different that people hadn't heard before. But you have to build that trust, like you say. You have to get the people behind you to be willing to take the risk on buying the ticket and turning up, knowing that you're going to give them a level of content and a standard that you maintain throughout, whether you've got your residents or whether you've got, an act they've not heard of. It's building that group around you that want to come to your night because it is what it is, and it goes, we worked hand in hand with Sin when we did it. So we made sure that not only the content was different, but we tried to make a drinks plan that was different to go with it, just as a bit different to everything else. So we tried to look at the whole picture when we put it together to try and generate something that was a bit different. So I'd just say that, just spend some time, do lots of research, and like James Inwood said earlier, you don't have to shed loads of money on an act to, because it might not work necessarily. It's finding the right mix of everything, and it's trial and error. You'll try some stuff that works and you find some stuff that won't. So you just got to try and stick with it really, and ride it out, because you'll have weeks where you'll have 5 people in the club because of something completely unrelated, or you have weeks where you've got a capacity club with 300 people still queuing outside, and you just can't always call it depending on who you book. So it's a bit trial and error really.
Yeah, I imagine there's a big element of risk involved in a lot of the decision making. But I can imagine that's quite an exciting feeling as well, and especially when maybe you book something or do something that maybe you don't think is going to work, and then it really works. I imagine those are really rewarding nights as well. Let's jump to
2 hours at the start.
Yeah, no, I imagine a worrying start, I imagine. Let's go, James Inwood. Let's see if your fan is behaving.
Yeah, how's that sounding? Does it sound
just
awful?
We've just about got you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate what the other guys said, I mean, it's all about making your own mistakes, really. I think when we first started, like when we did that first Brown Baseline Cartel, like I said, we did a show in Exeter, because basically my girlfriend was at Exeter Uni at the time. We were based in Bath, Bristol. I'd been to a night in Exeter when I got to see my girlfriend, and Predator had been playing, and I was like, you know what, that was wicked. I'm going to do a night there because why not? It's in my head. I was a young promoter. I was like 20. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. And we spent, like $8,000 or something on this show, and we lost about 4 of it. And we were like, oh God. And do you know what I mean? This is before we were like a limited company or whatever. We were really naive at the time, and yeah, that was a big hit. But I mean, if we hadn't done that, I think having that big loss quite early on just really drilled it in that you just need to nail the basics. You need to know your audience. You need to be booking the right lineup. You don't have to spend loads of money on a massive headliner, because some of the times you can spend $4 or $5 on a headliner, but you could have spent $1,000 on the right headliner and it will sell just as many tickets. Like I know we've done more even kind of now in recent years, we've done shows where we spent a good wedge on a headliner. And I know for a fact that I've done similar shows at Sin, for example, where I spent $1,000 and done more tickets, which seems crazy. But again, until you kind of do it yourself and kind of make those mistakes and learn what your audience are after, then you're not going to get better, I guess. Also, a massive thing for us, and I think the scene in general at the moment, especially, is kind of really ensuring that you have diverse lineups in terms of everything from female, male, just different genres, everything. Especially, I feel like there's a lot of females pushing to get on lineups at the moment, which I think is amazing, and it's something that we always strive to ensure that we've got at least a few female DJs and a male-dominated lineup where possible. And I guess the other main thing is when it's kind of starting your night, it's just, I think Dave said this earlier, but just creating a really loyal team of people around you, from reps to your DJs, just to loyal customers. When we started Dazed originally, it was a weekly night with the £1 guest list night every Tuesday at Blue Mountain in Bristol. And by the end of the year, you'd see the exact same people coming in every single Tuesday. And we kind of still speak to those people, still support us online, even if they left Bristol and kind of left uni and don't come to our nights anymore. You still see them kind of engaging with us on Facebook. And it just goes to show that, if you've got that kind of loyal group of people, they stick with you and they kind of keep your brand alive, which I think is really important.
Amazing. We've lost Nick again. His battery's exhausted again.
Like Duracell or something.
We'll go up to James Hamilton. Your top tips.
So I'd say you definitely have to have passion for the music that you're putting on, and the culture that you're kind of supporting. And I'd say that basically exactly what the other guys have said. As well, I think it's really important to have value within your.
Sorry, James, can you mute yourself again? Sorry, mate.
Sorry, yeah, I'll kill myself.
So to have like attention to detail to your nights. So to make sure that like the bar lights are dim enough and the atmosphere is right, not just that once you've sold the tickets, your job's done, if you get what I mean. Making sure that like the production is on point, the sound is right, everything is going well. And then in terms of don'ts, I'll say just don't sit back if you're doing a night and you think it'll be fine. Just still put everything into everything you do to make sure that, you know, if it does flop and doesn't work, then you've tried exactly the same as you tried for something that you know would work. So just kind of really backing yourself for that, but just taking risks really, and just, you know, risking it and going for someone cheap who you think is going to be big in, you know, X amount of time, or is going to have a bigger pull than the time you're booking them, and just going for it really.
Yeah, amazing. Tom, seeing as you're 3 years in, what are your top tips?
Yeah, so top tips I would say is to attend as many nights as you can being run by other promoters, just so you can kind of get to know the promoters. Obviously, you know, the DJs who are out playing, you know, you can kind of see what works and what doesn't. And again, to kind of reiterate what the other guys have said, you can kind of build that community. You know, it kind of helps establish your brand. You know, if you kind of there, you're on lineups, or, you know, you're at least there in the crowd. So yeah, you know, building that community is absolutely key. And, you know, I would say as well to never stop pushing, never kind of get comfortable thinking that you're in a good position. You've got to continue innovating and thinking, what can I do that the other guys aren't doing to give me the edge, you know? So yeah, don't get comfortable and keep reading. That's my top tips.
Amazing, good stuff. Thanks for that, guys. That's really good to know. I think we've had a question through. Gary, do you want to?
Yeah, just to pick up on what the guys said very quickly, I think having spent some time with quite a lot of them, I think I think that they tend to agree. You have to make the mistakes. Like, you have to have that night where you've spent all that line. Maybe it's not just money as well. You've invested all of that time and you've committed to this kind of idea, and you're sat there and certainly Dave, certainly James, and certainly Rodri in the early days. Online tickets weren't a thing. You didn't know when the doors opened at 10 o'clock. You had no idea if people were coming through the door. You had maybe a gut feeling, maybe. You didn't have that kind of guarantees, and you lived and died by those literal minutes and seconds. But you kind of have to have those nights to kind of really appreciate the wins, but also to know maybe that it's not that bad if it does happen. If you do have one of those nights, it's not the end of the world, because there will be another day. Like,
I was going to ask actually, but just before that question, how do you bounce back from those nights where you have lost a lot of money? James, you said that early on you lost a lot of money. James Inwood, do you want to? How did you bounce back from that?
We got all our mates to chip in 500 quid each. Yeah, at the time there was only 3 of us or 4 of us, and then we lost a lot of money, and we had a group of like maybe 6 more DJs that kind of were like kind of part of our team, and we were like, yeah, do you all want to chip in 500 quid? And you guys can have some shares in a company that doesn't exist at the moment, but you definitely have those shares. We paid the money back eventually, but yeah, that's how we bounced back from that one. But I mean, in general, it helps to have made some money on other shows, so it doesn't matter too much if you lose a bit of money. But I mean, it's all about mindset. If you have a bad show, which I mean we all have, I mean you can't. There's always a chance your show might not do well. As long as you've got the right attitude to come back and put on another better show, and you keep grinding, then that's all you can do, really.
Yeah, amazing. So the question that we've had through.
We have. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Question from Keelan Owen, who said, I'm a bedroom DJ at the moment. I believe I'm ready to start playing in clubs. Do you have any advice on how to get gigs and how to get into your local scene?
So I think because his battery's exhausted, but he's back. We'll go to Nick for this one. How would you field that question, Nick?
I'm so behind right now. What's the question?
Advice for a bedroom DJ at the moment who thinks they're ready to start playing in clubs. Advice on how to get gigs and get into the local scene.
Well, since I started, it's pretty much like all changed. Before it was like going to shows and then meeting people, meeting the promoters and meeting the other DJs. Whereas nowadays, a lot of the time, if you start running a page, you'll get loads of people, loads of kids just messaging the page, like spamming your mixes. But I think it's more of a thing of like going to shows and meeting people, going to the like local venues and stuff. It could be great that you've got like some SoundCloud mix that does really well. But if you don't actually go to like your local shows, then it doesn't really, to the promoter, it doesn't seem like you add much value.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump to Rodri with that same question. And I imagine that as promoters, the amount of mixes that you get sent from DJs is vast.
Yeah, I mean, like when I first started playing in clubs, I mean, I don't really see it as much now, but they used to do like open deck nights, where it was kind of like, not a free for all, but you'd have the chance and you'd get a slot and you'd send in a mix, and then they'd give you a slot on the night, and that was your sort of your first way in. And in Swansea, 10 years ago, they used to be rife because there'd be nights where people didn't really know what was happening, or a random Monday where they didn't have anything on. So one of the local bars would put on an open deck night, and then, you'd go into that and you'd start. Again, it's networking. You'd build a network where you try and meet people, and you just try and, like I say, you've got to support the nights and be part of it. And then with Sync, we got to the point where we linked in with there was like a DJ society as part of the uni, so we linked in with that, and then we let them have, if we had a big show on, we'd try and do it. So we'd introduce new DJs, but let them play upstairs to try and give them an experience of playing in a club, and then one of us would be up there listening to them, and then if they played the right sort of stuff, then we try and introduce them. But again, it's just building your network, build a network with as many people as you can, go to the nights, meet the promoters, make the effort on it, because they need to take a risk on you, to give you a set, because at the end of the day, for them, it's it's not only a hobby, but it's a business for lots of people. So you've just got to build the relationships with as many people as you can. Your time will come.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really great advice, and it kind of rings true in the work that I do with live music. It's the people that you meet face to face that show an interest, and like you said, show that passion for what they do. And when you need a slot for someone to fill, that's the person that you're going to go to. David, do you want to add anything else? Tips for DJs now?
Probably, like, I hated DJing, if I'm honest. For a promoter, we'd always do in all of our nights, we do what we call new blood. So every night we would play a new DJ and just put them up there and make them shit themselves, really, I guess, from and see how they cope with the pressure. You can never tell how a DJ is going to cope unless they shit their pants in front of a crowd, and that's where you find your best DJs. If the people can hold the pressure, and you're putting them on as an early set, which is probably the hardest set to fill, because you want them to start the night off right and to make it go, up the BPMs, and yeah, if they could hold that set down, then they were good enough to play any time slot. And that's what I found all my diamonds is doing that. Is just creating a spot in your night where you just flood new DJs every week without fail.
That's amazing. That's really great. James Hamilton, any tips?
I'd say basically what the guys have said, but just getting involved in the local scene, turning up to shows, and just reaching out to promoters. It's like I listen to pretty much most mixes, 90% of the mixes that people send me, but also just don't be afraid of just asking multiple times, because a lot of the times you might meet somebody and say, I'd love a set, but they might not follow it up, or you might not get a hold of them. So I'd say, yeah, just reaching out to promoters and venues and just kind of involving yourself in the scene. And then, you know, like when you're playing sets, like Dave said, like, you know, that's when you can tell if someone's any good or not. And yeah, just don't get pissed before your set.
Good advice. Tom, let's jump to you, because obviously you said that you do a lot more of the local kind of talent that's coming up and around. Like, how do you scout those people, and any tips for people that are kind of emerging from their bedroom?
Yeah, sure. So with regards to scouting the talent, we run free raves at the Bunkhouse, and it's literally 2 rooms, 9 hours, and we put on generally a fresh DJ to Swansea every hour. So I'm always putting the call out to try and find, DJs who are kind of local, who aren't going to cost me 50 quid to book for their travel, because that would just be too much. We obviously get them all down, and if they're any good, then I can look at getting them on our other lineup. So we've got like headliners and things like that. But as a new DJ, I definitely suggest seeing what you can do for your scene. Like I started HEP because I was getting very few sets, and just being able to add that value to my scene, I feel has really helped me get a lot of the opportunities that I'm getting now. So yeah, just see how you can benefit your scene, see how you can benefit promoters, and keep sending mixes out as well. Because like James Hamilton, I listen to most of them that I'm sent.
That's good to know.
Yeah, keep grinding.
Amazing, good stuff. Obviously, it's all well and good, giving advice to people, with when there's gigs happening. But obviously, there's a pandemic at the moment, so everything is stopped. And I know that when it started, the amount of DJ streams that I would see popping up on my feed was like ridiculous. And it's a lot more accessible for a DJ to do a set from their bedroom than it is a band to do a set from their bedroom, or anyone live. So I just wanted to kind of touch upon that and see how kind of you guys have coped over the last nearly a year, which is mental, and kind of where you think this is going. Is it exhausting? Is it what's next? Let's start with David.
I'm probably the worst one to start with. I sell t-shirts now. I took a downwards turn for a bit, and we're okay now. January is always a bit crap. But yeah, no, I'd ask the others on that. I'm a t-shirt seller.
Just to chime in, no, I think you're selling yourself a bit short there, Dave, because you've used. I think you've from throughout the pandemic. I've seen you've used that platform to kind of to help people and to raise awareness, and some of the designs that have come out through the period have been amazing. And I think you've diversified in maybe a way that other people haven't, and it inspired us to a certain extent to kind of push and go down another line and think, well, maybe there's something we could be doing there. So I think maybe I think you've kind of explored other options there and other avenues.
Yeah, I guess it's the same as it's probably the crux of the whole conversation is help where you can. Do you know what I mean? That's DJs coming up, that's promoters, that's everybody now. It's just like the forest is burnt down. You know what I mean? The forest is burnt down now, so everybody's got to help where they can and help it grow. And now everyone's touched on diversity. We can grow a new forest now where we looked at for more diverse lineups and watch the scene grow how we want it, because it grew a little bit out of control. Do you know what I mean? Like, now a lot of the old gatekeepers are gone, a lot of everything's gone, and everyone's starting afresh. I'm going off the tangent for the question, but I think it's we're in a wicked opportunity now for people to come through, and for everybody to make their right changes within their organizations, as promoters, as ticket sellers, as t-shirt designers. We've all got our duty now to make this scene the scene that we thought we had before, but obviously we didn't. You know what I mean? We didn't. We weren't all doing our jobs properly, and now it's the time to do our jobs properly. Diverse lineups, get DJs coming through, and quality, everything. I think it's a perfect time, perfect storm. I know, that's probably a shit thing to say to you, Gary, because you fucking, I've been punched in the fucking teeth now. Do you know what I mean? With all the money you've lost, but we can make a great future for Sin City and everywhere else now. You know, it's to rewrite everything now.
I think you're exactly right. I think that one of the sorry, I don't mean to jump in on it, but one of the things that's come out of this is it's made us completely reconsider where we are and what we do, and how like what we contribute to the venue. It's something me and Simon have spoken about on a number of occasions over recent weeks, and how lucky and how privileged we are to be currently in this position, and how we can push the agenda kind of coming out of this, and what more we can do. And I'm just really keen to kind of get back to it, because we've got some amazing ideas. So I mean, that's for another time. But yeah, sorry, Simon, I didn't mean to.
No, that's good. I think that was a really great point to touch upon, and definitely does tie in with the question of how the pandemic's affected. If we jump down to Nick, how's your, obviously you've had not as many nights as you would have done in the last year. So how's it affected you, and what have you done to combat that? I think you're muted, Nick.
Back in.
Back in.
Back in, yeah. Well, this year I thought I was going to buy a house, and then obviously, this year, it was 2020. I thought I was going to buy a house, but obviously that got like swept under the rug. And like my side job was like selling like vintage clothes on the side, helping out with dead stock, and then that having to become my main income was like a massive was like a massive drawback, because like a lot of my income was mainly like DJing quite a few residencies and doing shows with James and various other people. So that happened to be my main focus and driving that, which is mad because all online sales has just gone like mental anyway since, and it hasn't really stopped. And then the only thing I've really got done going back to music is I started a new job cutting records with Vinyl Art Co. So focusing on like the contemporary gift side, making picture discs for people. So been concentrating on that really.
Amazing, that's good stuff. Let's jump to James Hamilton.
I'd say it's affected things massively in terms of like not doing shows, but it's that taking a step back and realizing that like how good it was, if you know what I mean, and how good being in a show is. Even like the tiny little things, like the rattle of the room from The Office and things like that you just think, or that you just end up missing. But I think that like what Dave said, like when it all comes back, I think it'd be healthier than ever, and there'll be more of a respect for nightlife, because I do think that DJ nightlife, in comparison to bands and stuff, does seem to be like a bit more of a dirty word. Like nightclub funding, in terms of what the government have provided, hasn't been really enough. So yeah, I think things will come back and they will be good, but it'll just be a case of when they do, which hopefully won't be much longer.
Yeah, absolutely. James Inwood, do you want to touch on this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, not doing events has just been pretty shit for the last year. I guess we're lucky enough to be furloughed. I mean, there's a lot of smaller promoters, essentially, that aren't kind of limited companies that maybe can't get furloughed, which I'm sure sucks. But I mean, it's been kind of, I mean, obviously it's been rubbish doing shows, but it's been kind of good in the sense that we've had time to sit back and go, okay, cool, what can we do next then? We spend a lot of time kind of focusing on our socials, trying to grow those. Like our Instagram was, I think, 5K, but this time last year, it's now 12.5. So we've over doubled in the space of a year just from actually focusing on it. And a major way we've been doing that, to be fair, is by pushing kind of smaller DJs, just getting clips of them DJing and giving them a bit of a platform to put them on, and kind of bigging them up, tagging them, which just seems to do wonders for both us and these DJs. Other than that, yeah, we tried doing sit-down shows. We did a couple of them, but you need to be doing so many of them to make anywhere near the sort of money that kind of sustains a business. I mean, I guess if you're a venue and you've got the space to do it, and you can do them every day and sell them out, then maybe it's sustainable. But yeah, for us as promoters to do, we did 2 or 3 and made a couple £100 on each, which is, I mean, yeah, great, a couple £100, but that doesn't pay anyone's wages. So we kind of sacked those off. And lucky for us, we started diversifying into doing these international trips, which we started doing, which are all kind of planned for this year now. We announced our first one in August, September time for 6 months time. So for this March, thinking, things are going to get better. Let's put on a big festival in Prague, and it will all be fine in 6 months' time. And obviously, it wasn't. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure that was going to happen. But we've just announced a new one in Budapest for summertime. So we're hopeful that will happen. I know, yeah, it's just been nice to actually have something to work on, even though they're quite far away, and it's not normal club nights. It's something new for us, and yeah, it's just exciting to be. It's just nice to be doing work, to be honest, even if it's for something that may not happen. It's kept us busy.
Amazing, good stuff. Let's go to Rodri next.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, because I'm sort of out of the scene a bit now, I've missed a couple of gigs, but for me that was a big thing because I don't have the chance to play. I was playing 2-3 times a week to now playing 2 or 3 times a year. So I'm fortunate position that with my current job I work from home, so I'm not really been impacted on that. But I've tried to use it as time where I can support my mates who are still in the industry. So if they're if for example if Gary's promoting a night or pushing some brand or something, try and sort of like it, share it, invite my mates to, or try and support in other ways where where you can support on social media, or or watch Rich T's live stream, or his podcast or something like that. It's things like that where you can try and support your mates and support people in the industry who are having a bit of a harder time. Where if you can do something little like that, it sort of helps. Because I'm quite fortunate, like I said, that it's just I've been in a position where I can try and help my mates who are doing stuff, or if it's just an extra view or an extra watch or something like that, it means something to them. So I've tried to do during the period. Absolutely. For the foreseeable, I guess.
Yeah, good stuff. Amazing. And then Tom, have you dealt with the year we've had?
So initially it wasn't too good. We had plans to move out to Haverfordwest and Cardiff as well, and we were hoping to run shows regularly by the end of 2020 over obviously those cities and Swansea as well. That obviously didn't happen thanks to Rona, and I started obviously, I was working from home still, which is okay, but then I started taking graphics jobs, so that was album artworks and videos and logos, things like that, just to try and continue helping out the local scene, and it feels good to be able to contribute still, and then now thankfully this year we got the vaccine rolling out and everything, so I've announced a rave a couple of weeks ago, which will be happening in April, fingers crossed. So yeah, I think now it is a good time to get back into it and just reassess where the scene is and start afresh.
Amazing, good stuff. Gary, I know you had something to say.
It's genuinely a question that I don't know the answer to, and I'm hoping someone on here can help. There's say there's someone out there watching this at the moment, or catches it in a couple of weeks on the old YouTube. If they're interested in getting into DJing, how on earth do they practice to become? How do you become a bedroom DJ? Is essentially the question. I know we've given advice on how to get a set at a club, but I know for a fact that if I need to buy some CD players or a mixer, from my point of view, I have to go to Pioneer and give them a massive amount of money, far too much money for what I get back. But that's way more money than a 16-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid has got, or their parents have got. You're never going to go and buy a pair of CDJs on your pocket money. Is there some piece of software out there? Is it a case of renting it? Do you go and borrow some from somewhere? What's the process to kind of start off to start practicing to become a DJ? Scott Neal, who's put a comment in,
just saw that.
You need a smoke machine and Spotify, apparently. Is there any advice on that?
Does anyone want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So I would say there's a facility now out there in most cities other than Swansea, quite ironically, called Pirate Studios. And for an hour, I think it's £10 an hour, you can actually go in, use their equipment. They've got full speaker setup, full Pioneer CDJ setup and everything. And yeah, you can literally book sessions. You can go for a couple of hours. No one's watching you. There's no pressure. You're literally there with the equipment and you learn. Or alternatively, if you can't get to Pirate Studios, videos. I like when I started, I literally picked up like a crappy Numark controller and used Virtual DJ, and literally just spent hours and hours and hours just learning the methods of mixing. So not necessarily the equipment, but just the practices, and that really helped. So you don't need a full Pioneer setup to start. You just need something which you can basically mix on. That's my advice.
Amazing. Anyone else got any other tips?
One of my best DJs who DJed Concrete Junglist, he just mentioned in the comments there, I've been DJing for years and still haven't got my own equipment, literally because I can't afford it. And that was the same for me. I would just go around my friends' houses and play, DJ, hang out, just do that. Just again, goes back to community. Someone's got CDJs, someone's got a mixer, just go make friends, hang out. And Ransom, I think I remember selling him his decks probably about 15 years ago. I sold them like 2 years afterwards, and it's never like that. And he smashed in City those, you know what I mean? And every club in Cardiff, he's always smashed, and he's never owned his own equipment. So you don't really need it. You need to get good at it, and like we said, go down Pirate Studios. You don't always need to spend brands and things.
That's good to know. Good to know. Anyone else got any other tips before we move on? All good. That's cool. Nice one. So obviously it's Independent Venue Week, and it's all things celebrating venues and kind of live music and nights and DJ nights. So I've got a couple of questions kind of to start rounding off the chat. And obviously being hosted by Sin City, I wanted to ask you all some of your specific highlights from Sin City. Are there any particular nights or, either that you've put on yourself or that you've been a punter for or observed or, been there for? So James Hamilton, we'll start with you. Any particular highlights from Sin City?
It's a difficult one. I would say probably some of the ones that I've enjoyed the most is where I've been able to put in like loads of extra production, knowing that it's going to eat pretty much all my profit in the show, but just convincing Gary that we can put non-flammable pyro stuff in, or like CO2 jets, and Gary sort it out, lugging the canisters up the stairs for me and things like that. I think the ones where you've got your tickets in the bank and it's going to be a good show, and then just going, oh, do you know what, let's make this a really great show that everyone's going to remember, and just kind of going all out on like lighting and those kind of things as well. But I think probably my favorite show that I've ever done was one Dave was at. It was when I booked Stormzy for Buffalo Bar, little 300 cap venue, and it was pretty busy, to say the least. He arrived like super late, so I was outside waiting for him, and every single person was upstairs in the main room thinking he was about to come on. So when he turned up, he was like, "Oh, is it busy?" And I was like, "Kind of, be okay, I suppose." So I led him up the back entrance and opened the door after him thinking it was going to be shit, and he was in a bit of a mood then after I said that, and then he was super happy and asked for a really long mic lead. And basically, if it wasn't for a few people there helping out, it was basically the closest I've seen to a riot ever. It was pretty class. To be fair, it was because we booked him just at the right time, so it didn't really cost much. We thought we'd take a punt on it. And it was an incredible night. There was monitors flying around everywhere, and the speaker stacks nearly came over at one point. Pretty sure Dave was holding them up.
Favorite night. I tell people about it now. I go through like 5,000 photographs on my iPhone to show people that it did actually happen.
What year was it, boys?
I think it was, the old merges into one. I'm not too sure, actually. It was just as we booked him before he released Where You Know Me From on YouTube. We booked him like 3 weeks before he put that out. Then he put that out, and it went wild. And then we were like, oh, okay. And it sold out in like a couple of minutes. But yeah, it was.
I tell people it was the warm up to Glastonbury. I say it was 2 days before Glastonbury.
I just did a Google. It was 2015. It was Friday the 27th of March 2015.
That was it. And yeah, it was a fun one. It was it was probably my most memorable show because I didn't expect it when I booked him. When we had a run of like grime shows at the time, like AJ Tracy and Kano and like quite a few, good run with it. But yeah, I didn't expect it at all, and it was like total shock. And I think because he thought it was going to be completely crap, because I was just like, oh yeah, there's a handful of people, you probably have a good time, maybe okay. And it was quite funny. And Maya Jama was his manager at the time as well. So it wasn't like I had like his big management team being like, this light's wrong, you need to do this on the mic. It was just him on like the longest mic lead we could have, just in the crowd doing the whole thing. It was pretty sick. It's good.
It's pretty funny. That's our second Stormzy story of the week. Gary, when was the Sin Stormzy? Because that was a pretty wild night as well.
Roger will remember better than me, but I'm going to say January 2016.
Yeah, it was because it was
Oh yeah, it was the first show back after we reopened.
That was it, and it was the same for us. It was just like Ramjack, and I mean, there was like we're talking about, you guys were talking about Monday night. We had people turning up from like London, Birmingham with fake tickets, and it's like we've never had that really with a show in Swansea, and it was nuts. But then I think James, like you said, by that point he'd switched and he had his full TM as a guy who was a Registry 2's tour manager, because he phoned when he rocked up, and it sort of came up on my phone. I was like, what? Why is he phoning me? And he turned up with this huge entourage and everything, and yeah, that was one of the. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, on Monday, somebody said it was one of the most amazing but most stressful nights to be an event organizer.
Yeah,
that's cool. No, he's got the footage.
That's amazing. Look at that. That's what it's all about. See how alien does that seem as well now, though? It's only been 10 months, and you look at stuff like that, and it's like, they're a bit close together there, aren't they?
So, Dave, if we go to you, would that be your like highlight of, and obviously if anything from Sin?
That would be my highlight from another promoter. So that was my highlight of another promoter. Gary still is yet to invite me to do a night in Sin, so hopefully now he's going to invite me to do a night in Sin. My personal highlight was I think I was the first person to book David Rodigan for a multi-genre event. He played Hospitality, and he was strictly dancehall reggae DJ who was a battle dancehall reggae DJ, and I managed to convince Chris Goss, who ran Hospitality, to put a reggae DJ on at prime time at a Hospitality, and to watch the kids' faces that this old man just came on stage, and they couldn't believe that he was going to DJ, and then he just tore it apart. There was I don't know what Great Hall is, but he just tore the Great Hall apart.
Amazing. That's great. Good stuff. Nick, let's go to you. Highlights from Sin City and then overall highlight.
I've got quite a few highlights. I think my most recent one, I just found it on Instagram, which was actually in 2020 in February, was the last Wilkinson show. And then I got this video from like the side of the stage where like so many girls are on people's shoulders and they're all going ham to, I think it's Afterglow, something like that. But it's absolutely amazing to even look at now. It's like so ridiculous. But other than that, I think also one time, even though steam was like coming out of my ears, the power went off, but then all of the crowd just shouting like, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn," and we were like, "What?" But it filled the space that we needed whilst everyone was like trying to scramble to sort stuff out. And other than that, I remember years and years ago when I was like really young, seeing Scratch Bits in Sin City, and I remember I was so rammed and I was at the front, my hand was like on the barriers and I was getting pushed so hard that I was like, oh no, my fingers are gonna break. This is like ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. But yeah, I think they're like top 3 highlights I actually remember.
Good stuff. Amazing. Let's jump to James Inwood.
I reckon Sin highlight. There's 2 that's that. Well, every time we book King of the Rollers is a highlight. I think just having 3, like as a headliner, having kind of just 3 like top tier DJs going back to back with each other with such a sick MC. It's just a vibe and a half every single time they play. I think they're my favorite act just because they're so fun. Also, when we have Manu Ling, they're like my teenage kind of like favorite DJs from when I was like 15, 16. So to finally, but I've been trying to book them for years, and it finally happened a couple of years ago, and that was I think that was probably my highlight of Sin. Elsewhere, it's got to be when we had Bicep in Bournemouth maybe 2 years ago now. Spent a horrible amount of money, and it was just incredible, like to have an artist of that level. The show was just nuts, and the fire alarm went off mid-set. They had another set the same night in Southampton. We were in Bournemouth. We had the first set, and they had to do like a 90 minutes with us, and then get in a car, drive straight to Southampton, and do another 90 minutes there. And with about 20 minutes to the end of their set, the fire alarm went off, so we had to evacuate everyone from the venue. And they hadn't played Glue or what's the other big tune they have? Can't think off the top of my head. But the 2 main tunes, they hadn't played it yet, and we had 20 minutes left, so we had to evacuate everyone and then get everyone back in the building with about 5 minutes left of their set before they had to leave. And just their last 2 tunes, everyone had just come back in. They played their 2 massive tunes. And I've just never seen an atmosphere like it. It was just something else. I think that's highlight of career, I'd say.
Amazing. Sounds wicked. Good stuff. Tom, let's jump to you. Highlight from Sin, and then a highlight of something you've either seen or been part of.
So highlight of Sin was when I managed to book General Levy. I played before him, and then he went on, and I was just like kind of looking out over the crowd, just kind of taken aback by how many people were there. Then I see General Levy light a spliff and pass it to one of the guys in the crowd, and the guy in the crowd, he was absolutely fucking landed. Like in that moment, he had peaked, and he was landed with this spliff that he'd been landed, and about 2-3 seconds later, like 3 bouncers come on him, drag him over the fucking barrier and just take him away. He was gone in about 10 seconds, and I haven't heard from him since. And then highlight from, I'm just thinking back now to Lemon Factory. It was just one of those crazy nights where it's like a 50 capacity room and they had like 80 people there. It was one of my first raves. And I can't remember what song it was, but the whole club went off and I, near enough, just came over the front barrier through no fault of my own. And I was just like, holy shit, that hurt, but this is so fucking good.
Amazing. Good stuff. Right, and then Rodri.
So I think my favourite show was when we did Rodigan. He hadn't played in Swansea for years at that point, and it was one of those shows that, I mean, like, I loved him. Loads of us saw him at Culture Clash. I've seen him a few times before that, and we managed to get hold of him and book him. But it was one of those shows that, like Gary said earlier, advance tickets weren't really a thing until we booked him. We booked Rodigan, and we had almost an instant sellout. And it was just, he just brings so much energy and everything to it was one of my favourite and most memorable sync shows. But as a punter, it was probably my first ever show in Sin. When I moved to Swansea, and it was Chase and Status full live with Plan B, Nero, and Hatcher, and like now that's like a big festival headline. I dread to think the combined cost of all of that, and it was just one of the most insane nights. And that for me then was sort of when it was mental. So good.
Amazing. Good stuff. I'll just remind people that are tuned in, if anyone has any questions for these guys, we're going to be wrapping it up in the next 10-15 minutes. So if you do have any questions, please do drop them in. But in the meantime, while we gather some, I wanted to just ask you a final question from me, which again, kind of touching upon the Independent Venue Week. And I just wanted to ask you guys, like, why are these spaces so important, and why should they be, protected at all costs? David, I'll start with you.
I just think they're an extension of like a community centre. They're a community centre for all the kids. Do you know what I mean? It's where we keep our mental health in check. It's where we meet all our friends. It's where we build community. it's our modern day church, I guess. You know, it's all of those things. And the local ones are the ones that take care of their community. You know, like Gary looks after Swansea in a big way. Do you know what I mean? I watch his statuses on Facebook and how caring he is as a person, you know, and that comes through in everything he does. You know, like everybody knows that, you know, Gary's probably, he owns a club, but he's probably one of the leading social workers in Swansea. Do you know what I mean? Where people come and share their problems with him, and they use that venue like that, you know. And it's going to be wildly needed after this. You know, people's mental health is going to be through the roof. So Gary's going to be chatting to like so many people and putting them on the right path again once this ends. And I think that's going to be his main job probably for a year. Not only putting the club back on track, but putting everybody else back on track from his community.
Absolutely, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with Gary. I think whenever you turn up to Sin City and see Gary on the door, it's like an instant wave of calm and pleasantness when you see you on the door.
It doesn't feel like that.
Let's jump to Nick. Why are venues important? Why have they been important for you?
I think if we didn't have any independent venues, we'd be stuck with like so many different carbon copies of like revs and like cocktail bars that have like no soul. Even in Cardiff now that a lot of like the like alternative venues have gone, if you go down St Mary Street, there's like, well, not quite recently, but there's so many new cocktail bars, and they're all just like carbon copies of each other that have like no soul, like, you know, nothing to them really. I think it's important that we need these venues. Plus, where we're going to play all this like crazy noisy music.
Absolutely. Tom, we'll go to you next.
So yeah, these spaces are really important because, you know, it gives us a place to kind of unwind at the end of the week and, you know, just come out and socialize and enjoy the wacky sounds that we all love on a big unrestricted sound system, you know. Like I feel like drum and bass specifically, it's something you very much listen to like with your headphones on, or, you know, you'll maybe bang it out on your home hi-fi, but it's something you need to feel in your stomach, and you can only really do that at these independent venues. Like you wouldn't see this at like, you know, like Prism or Walkabout or anything. You know, these independent venues, they're key to the survival of the scene.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. James Hamilton, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I definitely reckon Dave hit the nail on the head there. I think, yeah, it's massively about they're more than just a venue. Is where you can go to meet your mates, regardless if you're like out drinking or something. I've had plenty of good sober nights traveling down from Swansea to go to Dave's shows in Aperture. I remember seeing Lensman and Rhea there, and I drove there, drove back, didn't even have a single drink, and had one of the best times of my life. I met loads of people through music, and pretty much all my best mates and my wife has all kind of come from music. I think as well, there's not many independent venues left. It's quite obvious that more and more disappearing. Majority of venues that I've promoted at previously have gone, and I think we just really need to protect that, because there is not many left. And they're more than just a music venue, you know, like not just for club nights, for bands, for artists, for everyone who works and is involved in them.
Absolutely. Rodri, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I think obviously you've got the sort of the community side as a punter, but also from like an artist perspective, you know, that's where they go around outside of, or, you know, it's a bit different now with Spotify and everything else and all these other streaming platforms. But for me, that was how, you know, you got to know of lots of acts and see them live. And then, you know, you see people that in these small venues and these intimate venues that go on and headline, you know, huge festivals across the globe. I mean, so Borgore twice and Sigma with Reese. And like now, you know, you would never see him in a tiny venue like that. You know, and there's a number of shows that we've done in Sin with, you know, acts. You know, when we did Sigma, you know, it's one of those things where you see them in a tiny little venue. You also tiny venue, you know, 600-700 people, but, you know, it's unlikely that you see those types of people again. And for me, it's just as important for the industry to protect these venues, because that's where the roots of lots of these sounds come from. Without the artists doing the rounds to lots of these venues, are they going to jump on a ticket to see them somewhere bigger in a festival, or everything else? For me, it's as equally as important from both sides, which is why I think they need to be protected. And for me, it's the hub of it. From both, you've got someone as a punter who's releases going out to this club and enjoying it, and like I say, meeting friends, meeting people, growing that community. But then from an artist perspective, I feel like they need to put in the effort and do the rounds to go around and build them as an act. And I think it's key from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finishing up with James Inward.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of touched upon the points of how it's like a kind of like a community, and it's where everyone goes to just let loose and enjoy themselves and listen to some music that you don't hear at your Revs or your Prism. I guess kind of almost more importantly is without kind of your grassroots music venues, you don't give the opportunity to those kind of smaller acts that kind of need that platform to kind of springboard their career into something else. Like, for example, someone like Skepsis, who 4 years ago, like, we booked him in Bath in a 200 cap venue, and then within 6 months later he's playing festivals, and he's huge now. And there's loads of acts like that without your kind of grassroots venues, with your smaller promoters booking them in your kind of 300 to 500 cap venues, those acts are just never going to make a career out of it, unless, I don't know, maybe they have a kind of viral tune or something that they'll make it. But without kind of your smaller promoters pushing them into smaller venues and grinding for them, you're not going to have the headliners of the future. So yeah, it's so important that those artists have a platform, really. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'd much rather work with Big G at Sin City than go work with a kind of a big commercial venue that's owned. Do you know what I mean? Like a Deltic group, for example. I'm not saying Deltic group, but you know what I mean. You'd much rather work with someone you've got a personal touch with. It's just so much better to do business that way, I think.
Definitely. Gary, you want to tag on the end of this?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's more to the people that are kind of watching, and Dave, you said some lovely things there, but it wouldn't be without examples such as yourself and everyone else on the screen, like shining that light and kind of setting that example in the first place before people follow it. And I didn't really get it when I first started. I didn't realize. I genuinely probably thought that drum and bass was just, and other genres, but specifically drum and bass was just something incredibly noisy. And it's you guys that have shown and built and shown how community orientated it is. And the bigger point here is that isn't seen and understood by the people in power, the people the people that hold these purse strings so tightly. It's not very often that your drum and bass raver, or someone that goes out on a Saturday night and goes to a dance party, goes on to become an MP in Westminster or sits in the Senate. So if you are a fan of these nights, if you do support the guys on screen, go out to their events and go and see what they do and follow their socials and all that sort of stuff. But also, when the time comes, and if you want these things to continue in the future, you have to support them by writing to your MP when you're asked to do so, and by getting in touch and saying, hang on, I'm here, I enjoy going to this, I consider this important, and I need you as my local representative to support it and to support these venues. It's so key, because it really does. If we've learned one thing over this year, it makes such a difference. It really does. Yeah,
absolutely. Completely echo that. Gary, there are some questions. We'll field a couple of questions. If anyone just wants to jump in, I won't go around everyone, but if anyone wants to jump in straight away.
There was probably quite a good question to kind of start wrapping up on and ending on from Alfie, which was, as promoters, do you have any post-COVID mega party in your back pocket plan for when things ease up, or are you waiting to see how it pans out?
That's a good question. Does anyone want to take that?
I guess a hard one, really, because no one really has any idea when things are coming back. I think we all kind of have an idea of when we half expect things to come back. Like for us, we've got stuff planned for summer, like in Budapest. Honestly, who knows if that's going to go ahead? But you've got to have a bit of faith. And I guess, in worst case, you put something up and you have to reschedule it, and you kind of have the faith there that your customers are going to support you by rolling their tickets over to other things. So I guess, punters out there, if you can buy a ticket and roll it over to the next one, you're massively helping out. But I mean, yeah, as soon as anyone has an idea when things are coming back, we will be going hell for leather with events. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to jump in on that?
I've got a show planned for April, but obviously, we're taking it as it comes, not booking any big headliners or anything at the moment. But, with the vaccine rolling out and everything, I am hopeful. So, the second that we have some solid kind of evidence to state when this is going to end, we'll be planning something huge. I'll tell you that now.
Amazing. Yeah, I can imagine that there's going to be very few nights and live music events as well, or just all sorts of events that are going to not be sold out in hopefully in that first year. That'd be great. Gary, any more questions come through?
Big Show wants to know how Rich T got so hench, but maybe more appropriate would be Aaron's question about messaging promoters who aren't aware of you, as in how would you introduce yourself, which we kind of covered earlier. But maybe there are some specific routes that the guys want to mention, maybe by shouting out their socials.
Good, yeah. So do you guys want to? I tell you what, that's quite a good way of wrapping things up. If you guys want to share how people can reach out to you, if you want people to reach out to you, how best do they do that? James Hamilton, we'll just go around.
I'd say it's better to I'm quite. I don't really make much noise about my events myself. I do it more for my pages, but if somebody messaged me personally, I would probably definitely give them a set. So just find me on Facebook, drop me a message. But I think with event pages, they do tend to get loads of people asking for sets, and sometimes they're not necessarily from the city that they want to play in. And on the other side of it, I think reaching out to the local venues as well, because Gary knows that all the promoters and everyone's always looking for new people to put on. So I think reaching out to the venue or the promoters themselves.
Good stuff, Rodri.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly that, because I'm sort of out of it a bit now. So my best bet would be message the venue, and then not to bombard Sim, but at least they can put you in the right direction of the whatever venue it may be. At least they can put you in the right direction of the type of promoter, depending on what you play, what type of thing, and and they can act as the conduit then between the various parties, which I think is key as well.
Yeah, definitely. Dave.
I'm rubbish on email, so at Concrete Junglist there on Instagram.
Sweet, good stuff. Tom Flew.
If you send the same SoundCloud mix 10 times, the link to my inbox will probably get back to you if you're lucky. No, a message to the Heft page, and we're usually pretty on it. We're usually pretty good at reading it. So message Heft, and we'll get back to you.
Sweet. James Inwood.
Instagram message is probably the best way to get in touch. Yeah, I guess the other thing is if you're at a show, as and when shows do come back, obviously try to come speak to us in person. If you can't find us or don't know who we are, just ask someone at the venue. Just be like, can you point us in the direction of the promoter? Because obviously otherwise, I guess how on earth would you know who the promoter is unless you kind of know someone who knows someone or whatever. So just ask the venue, just ask the doorman, can you point me to the promoter and come chat to us? Because we don't bite. We're happy to speak to you, and if you speak to us personally, if someone sends me a mix 20 times, obviously I'll get around to it eventually. If you come speak to me, I'm so much more likely to. Do you know what I mean? I'll engage with you, and once I've spoken to you and we're friendly, I'm going to list your mix straight away and much more likely offer you a set. But hit us up on Instagram at Days Music with a Z, and we'll give you a set.
Amazing. Yeah, I'd echo what James says. I think in the wider music industry, it seems like a big scary place, but I would say 90% of people are lovely and definitely approachable. And we'll just finish with Nick. How do people get in touch with you and follow what you're doing? And
it's pretty much already all been said, really. Normally Instagram is probably the best place. A lot of us are probably admin on so many pages that sending a mix blindly into one of them is probably a bit hard, but normally personal pages is probably a lot better. But it's all pretty much already been said.
Amazing. Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody who's still with us, and everybody who's tuning in after on the various platforms. I want to thank everybody here want to thank Gary for letting us do this, and big up Sin City. Gary, any parting words from you?
I just again, thank you so much, and continue supporting the guys that are on. If you are watching at home or wherever it is you are, the guys that are on screen now, they genuinely they care, and they have such a passion for the thing that you like, and they genuinely leave it all out there. They spend all their money, they risk it all to put on events that you guys love. So do engage with them and do support them, because they are absolutely amazing, and they really do love it, and they really do have a passion for it. And I've always wanted to say it. So if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and ring the bell.
Amazing. Good stuff. Well, thanks everybody. Hope everybody's staying safe, and hopefully we'll see you inside Sin City really soon. And if you're interested in any more webinars, we're back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We've got tips for standing out as an artist. I'm going to be hosting that one, and then we got another one on Friday about organisations that are supporting music in Wales. Hopefully see you again tomorrow. But thanks again, guys, for joining us, and thanks to all of our panelists tonight.
Bye.
See you again. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.